Many of you may remember back in 2008, as our economy was heading into full meltdown, there was also a food crisis hitting the entire globe. The price of wheat skyrocketed, creating panic around the world. 2008 became the first year in human history that the population of those who went hungry increased, an increase of more than 250 million people, a quarter of a billion in just 1 year. More than 1 billion people around the world bordered on starvation. The food crisis was even felt here in the United States of America, with 49 million people struggling to feed themselves and demand for food stamps and soup kitchens exploding. It was chaos. There were food riots around the world. But there was something strange about that 2008 food crisis and the price of wheat that caused it. Simply, there was no shortage of wheat. In fact, 2008 yielded the largest amount of wheat in the history of the world. 657 million bushels weren't sold at all. It was a record-breaking surplus. So with such an enormous supply of wheat, what caused the prices to shoot up? The answer is found on Wall Street. In 1991, Goldman Sachs was looking for another financial instrument that they could sell. They were tired of speculating with debt and real estate and realized that the new horizon was food. So they created an index of commodities, cattle, corn, wheat, that they could then sell to investors. As more and more investors bought into their food index, prices began to rise. So despite there being plenty of wheat, prices continued to climb because investors were purchasing more and more future commodities, futures on these commodities. And in 2008, The Economist, the magazine, noted that the food prices had increased to a level not seen since 1845. A bubble was being created, thanks to Goldman Sachs. But, as then chairman of the Kansas City Board of Trade pointed out, this isn't just any commodity, it's food, and people need to eat. He was right. Wall Street bankers had manipulated the price of the most basic need for everyone on the planet, food. And the effects of that gamble rippled across the entire globe, with hundreds of thousands of people dying of starvation in 2008. Meanwhile, Goldman made a killing in profits, literally. Eventually, the bubble burst and prices returned to normal, but the damage was already done. The food crisis of 2008 was merely a byproduct of loose oversight in our markets and millionaires and billionaires who had far more money than they knew what to do with, thanks to the Reagan and Bush tax cuts. This should be a lesson learned, right? Well, in today's Financial Times newspaper, there was a story about food prices in the U.S. spiking again. Due to extreme weather, climate change, the U.S. Agriculture Department once again cut crop forecasts and warned of a shortage in grain production. Corn yield estimates have now been cut for a third month in a row, causing the price to jump to $6 a bushel for the first time since 2008. Cotton and soybean also jacking up. As food prices are on the rise, will Wall Street jump into the game again? After all, what else are they going to do with their billions? Rinse, wash, repeat? That's the big picture.